Brian Dennehy, Tony Award-winning actor, dies at 81. Brian Dennehy, a versatile stage and screen actor known for action movies, comedies and classics, but especially for his Tony Award-winning performances in Death of a Salesman in 1999 and Long Day's Journey into Night in 2003. Died on Wednesday in New Haven, Connecticut. He was 81. His agency, ICM Partners, announced his death. His agent, Brian Mann, told the Chicago Tribune that the cause was cardiac arrest resulting from sepsis. Mr. Dennehy lived in Connecticut, where he was born. Brawny and gregarious, Mr. Dennehy was often called on to play an everyman or an authority figure. Athletes, sheriffs, bartenders, salesmen and fathers. He was in scores of movies. First Blood, Gorky Park, FX, and Presumed Innocent were among them, as well as an assortment of television series. But his first love was always the stage. He was a towering, fearless actor taking on the greatest dramatic roles of the 20th century. Robert Falls, artistic director of the Goodman Theatre in Chicago, where Mr. Dennehy did some of his finest work, said in a phone interview, "They were mountains that had to be climbed, and he had no problem throwing himself into climbing them." Mr. Dennehy, who once played college football, thrived on roles that let him contrast his physical presence with an emotional vulnerability. Mr. Dennehy is a big bear of a man, but sometimes more of a teddy bear than a grizzly, Frank Rich wrote in the New York Times in 1990 after seeing Mr. Dennehy's performance as the protagonist Hickey in Eugene O'Neill's The Iceman Cometh at the Goodman, which Mr. Falls directed. There's a buried, dainty tenderness in his burly frame as well as a hint of festering violence. Mr. Falls also directed Mr. Dennehy's two Tony-winning turns, which started at the Goodman. Ben Brantley of The Times, in his review of the Goodman's production of Salesman, the Arthur Miller play, called it the performance of Mr. Dennehy's career. Mr. Falls said in the interview that Mr. Dennehy's background, he had come to acting somewhat late, after knocking around in various blue-collar jobs, had helped make his portrayal of Willie Loman, one of the great roles of the American theater, so memorable. When he did Salesman, he just brought everything to that role, Mr. Falls said. It was tailored for him. He knew those people. He knew that world. Brian Magnan Dennehy was born on July 9, 1938, in Bridgeport, Connecticut to Edward and Hannah Dennehy.